Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa Harrison and today I am speaking with Tolec. It is Monday the 21st of November 2011. Now Tolec is a human representative of the Andromedan Council, which is a galactic governance council whose membership consists of star systems and their homeworlds in the Andromeda constellation and galaxy, and also includes representation from the Galactic Governance Council of our own Milky Way galaxy. Tolec states that he has been given the Andromedan name Tolec, which is a sort of a public persona work name, by the 5 people with whom he communicates with primarily, who are stationed on this primary Andromeda Council flagged biosphere, where many of its meetings are held. Tolec has told me privately that he comes from a good, solid Earth-human family. He's a 20-year professional of the computer software industry, with experience in marketing, finance, administration and operations, and he's presently the head of operations for the firm that he currently works with. In an earlier conversation, Tolec has told me that he was first contacted in 1993 by his principal Andromedan contact, a commander who took him on 3 closely clustered together but separate time travel trips via an Andromedan spacecraft back in time to the 1840s in the area of rural Kentucky or possibly West Virginia in the United States to observe a family of 4 and their life struggles. Now, Tolec states that his Andromedan contacts ended subsequent to those 1993 trips until the Andromeda Council contacted him again in September of 2010. Tolec says that he regularly receives information updates from his Andromeda Council contacts via a number of different modalities, and they are 1. Telepathic communication, 2. Automatic writing, 3. Communication in the dream state, 4. Brief visions, and 5, which is interdimensional travel of his soul essence to the Andromeda Council flagged biospheres. Now, these biospheres are essentially large planet-like spherical spacecraft which are stationed around the Earth. The primary one that he visits has 26 stories, an executive staff of 15 people, a crew of 50,000 people and their families. He says that it can hold upward of 2 million people at full capacity. Now, this is Tolec's first interview outside of and since his what you could call going public series of interviews that he's been doing with Alfred Webre. If you're not familiar with that series, I highly recommend you go back and listen, and I will place all of the necessary links in the description. And with that rather lengthy introduction, welcome Tolec. It's a real pleasure to be speaking with you.
Hi Lisa, it's great to be here. I'm sure you have a whole bunch of questions for me, so I'll let you kick it off.
I mean, I do. I do. But in order to give them some context for my questions, even though I've asked people to please go back and have a look, but in order to give some context, I need to recap some of the information that you've already shared with Alfred. But please, by all means, add anything you think I've left out that's vital, or correct any misunderstandings that I may have.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in your first interview with Alfred, the big announcement was that the war in space was over. So the background to that announcement is that this Andromedan Council that you're in contact with identified Earth, our moon, Mars and its moon, and this particular time frame as being a pivotal sorry, can't speak.
Yeah, that one. Yep.
Yeah, that'll do. Pivotal time and place for events that have serious repercussions in the future for many planets, many star systems and civilizations. And that after much consideration by the Council, the decision was made to put aside the law of non-intervention for the sake of all of the above. And subsequently, a war has been going on for the last 9 years in space against this Reptilian Grey Alliance. Does that sum it up correctly?
Pretty accurate, absolutely. And it may have gone on even a little longer, 9, 10, 11 years, but That's pretty accurate, and it's been pretty intense. They wrapped up the war in space part, as in happening outside of Earth space, um, mid to late January of 2011, this year.
Okay, I just wanted to get clarification on something because if I understand correctly, the reptilians and the greys are primarily fourth dimensional based beings, right?
Right.
So did this war take place in the third, fourth, or both dimensions?
Both.
Both.
Both. And it's interesting that you asked this question first because I think, as I mentioned, some of my answers are going to be direct quotes from both the commander of the primary biosphere as well as Tonka, who's their spiritual sage, their wise man, as well as Tanya, the vice chairwoman of the Andromedan Council. And this particular question, I took down his specific information, what he told me exactly in terms of an answer. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you what he said.
Mm-hmm.
This is the commander of the primary Andromeda Council Biosphere. Welcome. There are both dimensions that are involved in this war in which you live in a 3D reality of physicality. In both realities, 3D form and 4D form, there are ships surrounding Earth and bases on Earth that house both 3D people and 4D people. The war in space has been long and tedious at best. We have the assistance of the Procyon people who found out the weaknesses of the reptilian and gray minds. The Procyon people offered to assist us with the rounding up of the gray and reptilian occupation of various worlds, how to penetrate their energy shields, and then take them through a stargate or a portal to the far outer regions of the universe to fight among themselves. A secret code has been kept secret to lock them out so that the reptilian and gray people have no way of getting back to this solar system and into new dominance or control of this part of the universe. When the war in space was won by the affiliated planets of the Andromeda Council, the reptilians and grays refocused and retreated into their outpost worlds, such as Earth and 20 other planets. Their plans have been to continue to utilize their assertiveness, control the minds of people without the people knowing about it, and their continued plan to make slaves out of them. If they could not conquer space, their thoughts were to conquer their claimed worlds, so to speak, and yet continue to thrive on these worlds. The Andromeda Council voted to override their own protocol of non-interference with Earth because Earth and other worlds, like Earth, do not have the necessary tools to defend themselves against the cruelty of reptilian and gray master-minded frequency of dominance and control over the minds of people. On Earth, there are people who have often said that the spiritual warfare is an ongoing battle of the minds of humanity, so to speak. This is literally a true statement. In this case, humanity is not aware of the war on Earth. It's not so much about the taking out of the underground and undersea bases of reptilians and their gray alliance partners, but literally taking out of the reptilian gray mind control over the masses of people with their technology of negative frequency beam transmitters and their extensive mind melding of assertive control over human beings, much like a trained therapist and hypnotist might make suggestive thoughts to lead his or her patient to heal and improve their own lives. In the mastermind control over human beings, the thoughts that the grays and reptilians have perpetuated are of enslavement, false lies as truths, and deception to deceive them and the people around them. In closing, he goes on to say, we cannot allow any life form in the universe to manipulate, lie, deceive, and take control of any world. This is not in harmony with universal law of freedom for people to be able to decide for themselves, to make free choices, to live a free life, to express themselves freely, and the freedom to believe, to speak their own minds. We are here to see humanity free, so that humans can evolve on Earth, on their own, without negative interference, domination, or control. We of the planets of the Andromedan Council are your family of the stars. As you would say on Earth, families stick together through thick and thin. We are taking care of our family, the people of Earth. As free sovereign people, you of Earth can choose to become whatever your heart's desire is to be, without any further interference, dominance, or control by any malevolent star beings. Their time is about to be finished on your planet. I know it's pretty powerful, but that was his formal response.
That was an extensive response, and I'm blown away by it, to be honest.
Yeah, I was actually having a hard time reading it. I haven't read it in a while because he answered this question about a week and a half ago as you and I were preparing. And there's so many things going on in this world today that speak of the truth of this struggle for us to get back our lives. And so, yeah, as I was reading it, I too was touched by his words, and the depth. I guess the depth of the truth of his words.
And it brought up some more questions for me, which is, does even though they have fourth dimensional technology, on the one hand, I'm assuming that our black ops and secret government have similar technology. What he's essentially saying is that it's not enough, but also the rise in consciousness is also not enough to battle this. The humanity right now is going through a huge awakening and a huge raising of consciousness.
That's fantastic. Absolutely.
But is it not? It's still not enough. It still wasn't going to be enough.
Well, in terms of it's interesting that you asked this because I kind of anticipated this question was coming. Yeah, in terms of the strikes to take out the last of the underground and undersea reptilian bases, we on Earth don't have the technology to reach that deep undersea, that deep underground. At least the good guys that I'm aware of don't have the technology to access these bases. And the reason, and this is kind of complex, but I'll take each piece at a time. The reason why it's important to take out these remaining underground and undersea reptilian bases is that before they can safely come here and begin to help us emerge into our new fourth dimensional selves, higher fourth dimensional selves, and we'll be made of course, a different vibration and a different composition. We can certainly get into that, but before that can happen, this planet needs to be cleansed. It needs to be cleaned, and we don't have the technology to do it. If we allowed these bases to continue, many of these bases, including the ones in the Gulf of Aden and the one off the east coast of China and the east kind of China Sea, and both of them are now gone, destroyed. A lot of these bases had beacons, if you will, transmitters, which would send out either a controlling, manipulative, agitation, fear-based frequencies on a daily basis. So if you have this kind of technology affecting people and you don't take it out, people are still going to be negatively affected. So, you got to take this technology out that the reptilians and the greys have been using for a long time, for thousands of years on this planet. So you take the technology out. To the best degree that they can, they relocate these reptilians that have been in these bases through a portal or stargate and off to the far reaches of the universe. and you keep taking these bases out, then you have a clean planet. And then the people from the 4 different planets that I mentioned on the website can come down here and visit openly and easily with people here on Earth, because the longer we're here, the more progressively this planet in the solar system is entering this area of fourth dimensional energy, which people describe as, the galactic equatorial plane, the black hole at the center with all of this magnetic energy running around. There are all sorts of energies beyond this beacon. Sorry, there are all sorts of energies beyond this galactic equatorial plane center that are creating a feeling of, I don't know if unease or difference or change. This is a time of change. And people are feeling these changes. Here's the next piece and the final piece to this, and I'm glad we're talking about it. So you've got all these energies, you have the bases being taken out. Sometime in the near future, it's going to be safer to come to visit. But what I really want to refocus on is the fact that this war in space, which is done, in which they're now in the cleanup phase here, as a corollary, there have been a lot of people on this planet talking about what's going to happen with the U.S. and Israel, and or the two of them and Iran, and there's all sorts of talk of war and or nuclear war. And in that same conversation, by certain factions or certain portions of the population, are mentions of, oh, this must be the beginning of World War III. Here is my own, and I've had this corroborated by Tonka, the spiritual sage with the council, and the commander as well. World War III is not going to be, and is not about guns, missiles, or nuclear weapons. World War III is going on right now. And World War III is a war over the people of Earth. It's about our intellect, our energy, our production capacity and capability as workers to support an economic system that doesn't work anymore. And if the Reptilians and the Greys, who have been in collaboration with the powers that be in the Cabal and all the other names that they go by, their agenda is to keep this economic system based on money that leverages our own energy, our intellect, and our production capability. They want to keep that going as long as possible. Because as long as we're 3D people and unaware, works for them. This war is about the winning of the hearts and the minds and the souls of humans on this planet. And the closer we get to becoming fourth dimensional people, the more aware we are of what's really going on. Either consciously or subconsciously, the more aware we are of what is really going on at these different subtle energy levels. That's why the Earth is so stirred up and agitated right now. People are picking up, because of this fourth dimensional energy, what's going on. And people are getting to the point, and I've heard and seen other people say this, no more. No more. This is our planet.
Well, you only have to look at the Occupy movement as for me, as a classic example. I think the Occupy movement was instigated by the powers that be in an effort to get people angry, get people violent in the streets, as an excuse to introduce potentially martial law and, take away even more liberties in order to, under the guise of protecting us from ourselves. But it didn't go according to plan, as far as I can see. First, it went global.
Right.
That wasn't part of the plan. And secondly, the people who are participating are so much more aware of how these movements become infiltrated with agitators, become co-opted by people with special interests.
True.
And they're not buying any of it, And it's remained peaceful regardless of the violence perpetrated by the police force, various police forces around the world, against these protesters. The protesters are refusing to fight back. They are maintaining their peaceful stance. They're getting pepper sprayed. They're getting shot with rubber bullets. They're getting,
Right.
no matter.
Yeah,
and they
I
just
knew
won't
it
be.
escalated.
Yeah, and they
Yeah.
just will not be provoked into a violent response. And I just think that aspect of it alone is beautiful. And you do have people with different agendas. You've got people who are socialists and people who are communists and people who are, by various fundamental parties or
Sure.
religious groups, all coming together and occupying the same space peacefully and talking and learning from each other. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
If we're fighting World War III for ourselves, it is absolutely a brilliant strategy, without a doubt. But it's, again, this is not about guns or missiles or nuclear weapons. It's about our own freedom, our ability to think for ourselves, to decide what's good for us, for each one of us, for our families. It's about them trying to continue to capture our energy and our intellect and our production capability. And I'm not a scientist and I'm not an economist, but this current system is broken.
Well,
It's broken.
It's broken by design as well.
Yeah, and it doesn't work anymore. And so this is a good time. Now, understand it's a time of transition, and it may get a little more hairy and a little more difficult for people. But the good guys, us, we're as they say, we're going to win the day. We are going to win our freedom. And fortunately, we're getting some help from people on the Andromeda Council, and there are certainly some other councils, other governance organizations, other aligned planets that are helping out. And I guess it got to the point where they said, and that's one of the aspects of this topic, they being people of the Andromeda Council, aligned planets, said, these people have been negatively manipulated for so long, we don't even know if they can make it on their own. But they certainly deserve a chance to make it on their own. It's time that somebody step in on their behalf and help them out, because they can't. They don't have the intellectual or spiritual tools, and they don't have the technology tools.
Well, this actually ties into the next question, which is, from a higher spiritual perspective, it's been said that we made a contract or an agreement with this reptilian Grey Alliance to come here and do exactly what they've done in order to perpetuate our growth, to take us as far away as possible from who we really are. If that's the case, well, firstly, do you know if that is the case? And secondly, if that is the case, the Andromeda Council stepping in on our behalf, is that also part of the contract, or is it just from their observation that they made that decision on their own, or is it in response to us genuinely in our hearts calling out for help? What do you know about that?
Because I wasn't around when a lot of these meetings happened, and like you and others, over the course of years and doing at least some topical research, or maybe, depending on the person, more in-depth research, I'm at least aware of meetings on the part of clandestine government officials, as well as higher placed executive officers of our country here in the States, meeting with reptilians and greys as early back as the late 1930s, and then some kind of agreement that was signed between the U.S. and aligned Western nations on behalf of them with the Greys as an exchange of technology for, I guess, for our governments to allow them, being the Greys and their Reptilian alliance partners, to have access to some people, to have access to some genetics, to some human DNA, because that part of the story has always been about, at least for the Zeta Reticulans, from the Zeta Reticulan star system, they have gone so far down their own timeline of life and have done, from what I understand, so much interbreeding that their species was dying out. And they needed to have a source of hardy, strong genes, genetics. Mm-hmm. And they thought that the people of Earth, because essentially this planet is sort of like a collection point for races from all across the universe. You know, if you just look at the difference between a Caucasian person as compared to a person from Africa, or a person from Africa looking so different from a person from Indonesia or China, we look distinctly different. And some scientists have already identified extraterrestrial DNA in our own DNA. So we as a planet have come from all across the universe, and there's more diversity here than anywhere else, which means there are strong hereditary genetic strains among the human population, and that's why they wanted access to it. From what I understand, the original agreement got way out of hand, and the Greys, as nudged by themselves or as nudged by their own reptilian senior partners, so to speak, decided that they needed to take more than what was agreed, and they just went way overboard, and then it was just one thing after another. You know, so they broke part of the treaty. The people on the ground here broke part of the treaty. You know, we got technology. They took more. It got worse and worse and worse, and has gotten worse, including abductions and fetuses getting taken, and the list of that kind of stuff goes on and on. Mm. So I think in terms of the intervention, the people of the Andromeda Council probably waited as long as they could until things got so bad here, in combination with the events that they saw were going to happen down the timeline, that if they allowed the Reptilians and the Greys to stay in power, the results would have been so horrific, 300 years plus somewhere down the timeline, that they could not allow this timeline with the Greys and the Reptilians in control to continue. Between the people of Earth being abused and what was going to come, it would have affected so many people that they had to step in. It got to that point where, and that's, from what I understand, that's the only point in time that the planets of the affiliated planets of the Andromeda Council step in, is when a police action is absolutely necessary. It's the only time they step in, when things have gotten so bad and so out of hand, they have to. And that's.
So does that mean that, you know, here we are, we're moving into these fourth dimensional energies. Some people call it ascension, others just call it dimensional shift, whatever you want to call it. Mm. Does that mean that there was the possibility that these Reptilian Grey Alliance were going to be able to somehow either prevent our awakening or hijack it or float along with it or something? Does it mean?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand the question. And I can only use and address, and I can only use my perspective and the perspective that they've shared with me. They being my 5 contacts on the Andromeda Council. And just as a reference point, I've talked to all 5 people pretty continuously, very intimately. But I'm aware of others. I mean, there's the whole executive team of 13 or 15 people I'm aware of. I've talked to 2 or 3 of those guys. Have communicated with a couple of ambassadors. So there are other people I talked to, but predominantly these 5. And the answer is, this solar system and our planet, as part of the solar system, is and has been progressively moving into an area of space by many descriptions, which I'll call fourth dimensional energy, which is a higher vibratory rate than the third dimension we're in right now. Mm-hmm. Concurrent with this area of energy is the fact that it sits in the galactic equatorial plane zone, where this black hole is, as people describe it, with all of this highly charged magnetic energy. And I'm not a researcher. There are a lot of researchers out there that have spent years learning about this information, but from what I understand, there are a number of cycles that are coming to a close at this moment in time. And this is not, all of this happening is about the physical event of our solar system, including our planet, moving into this fourth dimensional space. So if the reptilians and greys are along for a ride, then if nobody interfered with them, sooner or later we'd start seeing them anyway, because we're going to start to become more and more fourth dimensional until January of 2014, when the majority of us become fourth dimensional beings. There may be a few fifth dimensional folks around, and that's because the range of distance between fourth dimensional capabilities and fifth dimensional capabilities there's not a big spread at all. At all. It's more about a slightly higher vibration and a couple of more different choices and abilities. But the difference isn't that big. But we were going to start to see them anyway. So to answer the question, I can't see, from my perspective, I can't see how they can stop something that is a physical event, which is the movement of our solar system and our planet into an airspace of higher energy.
No.
Yeah, that's just what it is.
Well,
I don't know if that helps, but
yeah, well, sort of. Yes and no. Does that also? Well, I don't know. It kind of begs the question: if we're moving, well, I'll say up into their dimensional frequency range, and
right, good description.
We're going to both be occupying the same space.
Right.
Wouldn't that give us more of a level playing field in order to deal with them?
Okay, I see the reason why you're asking the question. I'll give you an analogy. You guys play Australian rules rugby, right?
Yes.
Okay. Imagine a team of guys that have been together for, I don't know, 14, 15 years. And guys come and they go, but you've got this core team of guys that have been together for a long time. They probably won a few championships. And along comes Western Australia United, brand new team with a bunch of rookies.
Okay.
That's my analogy.
Gotcha.
You know what it's going to look like for the first 3, 4, 5 years?
Yeah, they're going to get annihilated.
Yeah, okay. So you get it. Including the fact that unless, as some people call them, unless benevolent ETs decide to share with us some of their technology as we start to come into their vibrational space, their way of being, we're a bunch of rookies that don't even have any tools yet.
Right.
So that's the answer to that question.
No, that's a good one. I like it.
Yeah.
While we're talking about, federations and different councils, I just wanted to get your, and I know you've made this public before, but I'd like you to do it again. The difference between a group calling itself the Galactic Federation and a group calling itself the Galactic Federation of Light, and do they have a relationship with each other? And if so, what sort of relationship?
Okay. Thank you for asking. I'm glad you're asking, because I know I've written about this and I've said it before, but it's good to take an opportunity to focus on it and answer it as a unique single question. First of all, the Galactic Federation it's an affiliation of star systems and planets that's been around a long, long, long time.
Okay.
There are about 140 some odd star systems and about 300 planets. And I'm going to say this very slowly. It is based in the Tau Ceti star system. The chairman of the Galactic Federation is from the homeworld of the Tau Ceti star system. The Galactic Federation has its own board of 5 council members from different Galactic Federation worlds, based in the Tau Ceti star system. Okay?
Okay, Tau Ceti it is.
All right. Right. Shifting. The Galactic Federation of Light is based in the Sirius star system.
Mm-hmm.
The Sirius star system and the Orion star system are places where people that look human, they might be tall or a little shorter, they might be blonde of other color hair, but they would look human. But the reptilians have been in Sirius for a long, long time. And some people might see humans that are essentially reptilians, only simply because they have their original core essence is reptilian DNA.
Does that mean that the Sirius system is yet another system that has been occupied, invaded by this reptilian race, or is that kind of where they're from?
No, actually, nobody really knows where the reptilians originally came from. They ended up in Draco and Hydra. And Hydra are the ones with when you were a kid, remember the movie, like The Creature from the Black Lagoon?
Mm-hmm.
Kinda. You know, where they had the fingers and they're webbed?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the Hydra reptilians. But they came from way, way, way outside of this universe, and somehow they got dropped off into Draco, and Hydra. And they've been around for a long, long time, and they've been perpetuating themselves and traveling the cosmos and conquering worlds, and they're intelligent, they're brilliant master geneticists. Ergo, why if you see some people from Sirius who may claim to be Pleiadian, some do, that you're in fact looking at a reptilian, re-engineered person that looks human. So I'm getting off the track a little bit. In any case, so Galactic Federation of Light is based in the Sirius star system. It has a far smaller affiliation of planets, primarily some out in Sirius and Earth. There is a distinct difference in the organizations of the Galactic Federation from the Tau Ceti star system and the Galactic Federation of Light. They are wholly 2 different organizations.
So in this war in space,
Mm-hmm.
because the Galactic Federation of Light claim to have ships all around our planet and have done for some time, does that mean they would have been included in the removal, or are they likely to still be there? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, the best way I can answer this question is there are a number of really good species, ETs, I guess extraterrestrials as we would call them on Earth, people from Arcturus, some people from Pleiades, from what I understand, and a few others that are here at this moment in time watching this story unfold, watching the evolution of planet Earth as it begins to become a 4th dimensional world. And so there are all sorts of races here. quite honestly, I haven't asked about um, collaboration between other star systems and their ships and the Andromeda Council. When I ask questions, I typically only ask questions about what are the actions that the Andromeda Council affiliated planets, what are their actions that they're taking next?
Mm-hmm.
Right now it happens to be focused on removing the remaining undersea and underground bases on Earth. But I haven't asked about other affiliations with other councils or other people.
Okay, fair enough.
So I don't know the answer to that.
In regards to this removal of bases, our moon was also a part of that. So, who or what is left on the moon, and in what capacity? And by that I mean 3D, 4D. Is there anything still going on up there?
Okay. This is one of those where there was so much detail. He started talking and I started writing. So
Okay.
I'll take it from the top.
We have another quote.
Yes, we do.
Oh, great.
Here we go. I'll let you know when the quote starts. Back on the far side of the moon, he had me take, he gives me visual images, and then sometimes he'll have me look at a map. So I got this map, and he said, look on the back side of the moon. I said, okay. He said, now look at these areas, and now I'll simply list them off. These are the list of bases that were provided by the commander from the Andromeda Council biosphere. From the top of the moon to the bottom of the moon, on the backside. Mm-hmm. And they include 13 of them, as follows. Schwarz, it looks like Schwartz without an R. Schwarzschild, Hippocrates, Birkhoff, Cantor, Mare Moscovinis, Nernst, Hertzsprung, Krevis or rivers, Mendeleev, Skodskwa, Mare Oriental, Apollo, Nassau, Crommelin. Now these are all names that exist on a map that's been produced by a company here on Earth. I didn't invent these names. You can find these names on a map on the backside of the moon. So that's as a condition of moving forward. That's where the bases were. Here's the quote. This is the commander. We have had several ongoing battles with these moon-occupied bases during the war in space. We rounded up the Reptilians and Greys and their Earth elite people at the end of this war. The Reptilians and Greys were taken through a stargate as planned and sent to the outer regions of the universe to fight among themselves. And they cannot come back through the stargate because it has a secret lockout code. Unfortunately, many good three-dimensional people, humans from Earth and Mars, as well as human, reptilian, mixed race people from both Orion and Sirius, whose external look is human, sound familiar, huh? Mm-hmm. But their genetic core is reptilian. They were killed on both sides due to this war, and were saddened by the fact that many of our own 3D comrades from some of our own aligned planets were killed, as well as those of the abducted people who were under mastermind control by the Reptilians and Greys. There's more here. He says, as for the elite people who have joined the Reptilians and Greys in a contractual agreement between these groups, they were given the choice to A, return to Earth with their memory wiped clean, specifically of their connection with the Reptilians and Greys, or to remain on the moon base to work with our people in developing technology for the good of the universe, for the good of Earth, and allow our medical team to work with those people to heal their minds of their occupation with the Reptilians and Greys, and then to update us in debrief meetings of the reptilian gray agenda as cooperation between us. Regarding Earth people that were abducted against their will for experimentation and manipulation by the reptilian gray control of their minds, there are two parts. These people were helped by the Andromedan Council medical team up to one of a variety of our biospheres. Know that a full 50% of them, which means 6 of our biospheres, are solely medical biospheres, full-scale hospitals, as you would call them, for removal of the implants and their recovery, the healing of their mind, body, emotions, and spirit. They were given a choice to remain with the Andromeda Council and their subcommittees on these various biospheres, or become messengers to Earth people in their own way, or go back to their own lives with their memories intact and yet healed of the post-traumatic abduction experiences without any side effects. I'll summarize what he says about the remaining bases on the moon. He basically says, currently there are only 3D and 4D people on these bases, and they are only benevolent beings. They're only good people. And they live in the bases that are remaining. There are trees, they're breathing oxygen, and they are there primarily to continue their exploration of new, clean technology development and testing to benefit Earth, the Moon, and other planets in the universe in general. I just kind of summarized the tail end of that. In addition, this is from Vice Chairwoman Tanya of the Andromeda Council and Tonka, the spiritual sage. And this was a really touching piece. It was the tail end of what he was saying. They said, it is with great love and eagerness on our part that our people prepare to visit Earth. We want to do everything we possibly can to ease the people of Earth into fourth dimensional life. As we prepare our people, we understand we are very much your students teaching us about third dimensional life, as well as us being your teachers about fourth dimensional life. This is a part of universal law in action. With love, we share what we have with you as our relatives in this universe. Know that there is no lack in the universal supply regarding the needs of all the worlds that partake in the oneness of life as expressed by our Creator and creation. For your world, it is a dream come true. For us, it is about the heavens and the earth being reunited together again as one. We are returning to one another, and we will celebrate a feast together. Earth has come a long way to rejoin with our brothers and sisters of the stars. A celebration will soon be underway. In closing, the commander of the biosphere also said, Earth will choose, if it wants to become part of the Galactic Federation, which is already within our governance and under our council's protection. Due to the overwhelming vote as part of this council to intervene, such as we did on Earth's behalf. As Tolec says, you have a right to evolve on your own as free sovereign people.
Okay, you've
there's a lot.
Made me all emotional.
It's tough. Yeah, sometimes it's tough to go through this because as you can see, there's only one agenda, and their agenda is to love us and care for us and help us the best they can. That's pretty much it.
It also answers...
They all say it different ways, but they care about us, which is kind of cool.
And it answers the next question I had about the moon, which was, there's been a lot of talk about the fact that the moon, the idea that the moon would have to go or would be taken out of our orbit, and that action would have, dire consequences. But if that's what you're saying is true, then that's not necessary.
Yeah, well, I've heard this kind of in the airwaves, and they've never mentioned it. We've never talked about it. They've never said that the moon needs to be taken out. The only time that they've mentioned the moon is when Tacoma eventually comes into our solar system and settles in. It's gonna it's going to adjust. It'll adjust what the moon does. It'll adjust how the Earth moves. But that's the only time that we've talked about the moon in context of what's going on.
I just want to go back a bit to this map you were referring to. These names, you said, are
Sure.
Earth names, names that our
Yes.
military have given these bases.
I don't know how the names got there. He said, go find this map. And I kept looking until I finally found it. And it was a map on the backside of the moon, and it showed all of these names in different locations. But I honestly don't know who applied those names.
So this is a map that's available online that you can get.
Yeah. I'll find it and I'll send it to you so you can go see it for yourself.
Okay, great, thank you. And
Sure.
I'll include a link to it in the description for people.
Okay, sure.
So all of this means that we are potentially, for the first time ever, possibly, free to evolve naturally, because everything about the way we've evolved in terms of the societies that we've created and the technology that we've introduced and the way countries and states are formed, all of it has been by somebody else's design.
And somebody else's negative manipulation. If everything that my Andromedan Council contacts have told me, and they may be fourth dimensional, but they're human, just like you and I. Everything tells me that we've been manipulated on this planet for thousands of years, and especially, the people in if you will, the Mediterranean equatorial region of the Middle East, the way that those people have been, if you will, on both sides, Arabs and Israelis, just agitation, confusion, fear, more agitation, over and over and over. And, you and I are kids compared to the amount of time that those people have been at each other's throats. Mm. And you know what? They don't even know that they haven't been doing it. It's been from this beacon that's been pumping out all this negative energy over the course of years. So to get back to on center, absolutely. We're getting to that point in time where very soon we as a collective race, the human race on this planet, will finally be free and uninterfered with, not manipulated, at least once the powers that be / were start going finally out of power. It's happening. But yeah, in soon time, very soon.
You mentioned the human grey hybrids on the moon, but are there human grey hybrids here, or even human reptilian hybrids here on Earth? And if so, what's going to happen to them?
I personally am not aware of human reptilian hybrids on Earth. I am aware of about 5,000 human gray hybrids that have been created over time. And there's already a plan in place to relocate these people off planet to a world of their own, because they're not original Zeta Reticulans and they're not wholly human. They're a new species, if you will, of both people. And they have different gifts and skills, some more advanced than us. But they're going to be relocated to another third dimensional world. That's the plan.
And what about humans who believe that they have either physical or etheric implants? How are they going to be assisted?
That one's pretty easy. As I mentioned earlier, Azar, the chief medical officer of the Andromedan Council, and she happens to be on the primary biosphere. She has her own, if you will, executive staff, and her team is responsible for the medical facilities, if you will, on those 6 other biospheres. Those hospital biospheres. So those biospheres are specifically in place to take care of people who have etheric implants. And so they'll receive gentle care, they'll receive disintegration of these etheric implants, they'll receive care is about the only word I can think of to repair their emotional bodies, to repair their damaged spirits, to repair their damaged psyches.
Mm-hmm.
The care is there. It's available.
Okay, great.
All right.
Are you aware of any positive reptilian races, or are they all negative?
That's a good question. I am aware of one reptilian race that is, they're very intelligent, they're very calm, very deliberate in their actions. One person might even consider them to be noble. As a matter of fact, I'm aware specifically of the ambassador of this reptilian race, and he and his race have helped in a number of ways, providing intelligence, information, and assistance to help with the removal, if you will, of these Draco and Hydra reptilian bases down here on planet Earth. Now, about this reptilian race, unlike the Draco and Hydra reptilians, which are personality-wise mean, they're vicious, they're self-serving, and they prey on human beings as people. They may also, if you will, prey on their energy because they actually feed off of negative energy. These reptilians, this gentleman from his reptilian race, they don't do that at all. I think the best analogy I can give you is a comparison to old world Earth during the Pleistocene era when there were dinosaurs roaming the Earth. You had big Tyrannosaurus rexes with large pointy teeth eating meat, ripping and tearing flesh. That's how they survived. That's their cycle of life. There were also brontosauruses and other dinosaurs that roamed the planet that wandered through swamps and ate all sorts of plants and vegetables. The best analogy I can give you is those people. The people from this peaceful reptilian race, they are vegetarians. And they're kind and they're noble, and they've been nothing but cooperative in helping the people at the Andromedan Council to help get rid of these Draco and Hydra reptilians off of this planet. That's my answer.
Okay.
So the answer is yes. There's at least one peaceful race that I'm aware of.
Okay, changing tacks a little bit. The Project Bluebeam is a technology that has been talked about a lot over the last few years, and it was speculated that it would be used in a false flag alien invasion. Now, you've already stated in the past in your interviews with Alfred that a false flag alien invasion would not be permitted to go ahead. However, another scenario that has been talked about using this technology is a false flag religious or messiah event. But regardless of the scenario used, whether it's aliens or messiahs, any attempt to use this technology, would that be allowed to go ahead?
Absolutely not. They have essentially said whatever these reptilians and their gray counterparts try to pull from their remaining underground and or undersea bases, we will take out. We will either, I'm speaking metaphorically here, we will push some buttons, we will cause missiles and technology to malfunction. We are not going to let them attempt to create an event that puts the people of Earth, puts the peaceful people of Earth on a war footing, including some fake alien invasion. It's not going to happen. As soon as they try it, we're going to shut it down faster than people on Earth can blink. And of course, I'm speaking kind of off the cuff, but that's essentially what they've told me. They're just not going to allow it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whatever, under whatever label, their technology is advanced enough that their technology is so advanced that they've caused different, I'll call them war powers around the world. They've caused their nuclear warheads and their missiles to malfunction and simply not be launched.
Yes.
Tens of them at a time, just bloop, shut down. So, Project whatever, Bluebeam, no, not going to happen. Nope.
So since the end of this war in space, over the last several months, they've been focusing their efforts, as you've said, on taking out bases here on Earth. And presumably there are human personnel working and living in these bases as well. Now, you've stated that the reptilians and greys are being removed and taken to another part of the universe. But what's happening with the human personnel there, whether they're military or civilian?
Sure. Good, really good question. And this was one of those questions that the commander of the primary biosphere had an extensive answer. So I will simply choose to give you his words verbatim. Humans that were stationed on Earth, Mars, and the Moon in these bases, they have choices that they can decide for themselves. One, the ones that consciously sided with the Greys and Reptilians to develop space technology for their own agenda will have a choice to go with them to the far reaches of the universe, with the Andromedan Council's advanced warning that their lives will be in constant danger due to the behavioral patterns of Greys and Reptilians, and they will not have any way of contacting us for help. That is, if the humans change their minds and want to cooperate with us, they will not have the means to do so. Why? Because they're going to be out at the far reaches of the universe, sent through a Stargate, and they're going to have to fight among themselves for survival. Part B of 1, or these humans can elect to face the future Joint Earth Council's Tribunal Court for their part in the plan to control Earth. It is like those military prisoners who have faced the war crimes in the past within the ICC court system, which you call the International Criminal Court, whose official seat is in The Hague, Netherlands. They have exercised their duty to try military prisoners for their war of crimes, genocide, crimes against humanity, and crimes of aggression in the past. In the meantime, for the immediate decision of the human prisoners, we have our own Andromedan Council's specialized universal court system that takes care of the decisions to place these humans as the sentences are handed down by the judges. Answer 2. The humans who have been imprisoned by these reptilians and greys against their own will and were controlled by these reptilians and greys will be worked on by our medical team to heal of their effects on their psychological and spiritual post-traumatic syndromes. They can even elect to have their bad memories of horror that they faced while they were being imprisoned by these malevolent beings erased as part of the healing process. These humans are being offered the choice to stay with us on our biospheres because of their own advanced skills, or to work within the Joint Earth Council's, or to work with our Earth Council's subcommittees, or return to their homes. In returning to their own homes, we have our own volunteered ship's regional counselors that will be with them to help reorient their lives back to living with their families, assist the families that have questions, and heal the families of their own post-emotional stress with their loved ones being returned to them. This is the commander. And that was the end of his answer. There's a lot of detail there.
Yeah, there is. Um,
So there are, as you can see, there's some definite plans as to how to handle
yeah.
the people.
So that's dealing with people who are perhaps just doing their job,
Right,
right?
right.
But now separating those people from the people that we consider or call the elite, the Illuminati, the Cabal, who are very much, well, actually, I don't know. I'm assuming it's very much a conscious decision to do what they're doing. What about them? You know, as we speak, we've got in Kuala Lumpur, George Bush and Tony Blair being charged with crimes against humanity. Are we actually going to be given the opportunity to lay out some very earth-based human justice on these people, or are they also likely to be taken and dealt with by a council, a more of an intergalactic kind of council?
Yeah, yeah. I understand the question. I take it you're talking about kind of like the people at the top, at the very, very top of the power structure of what people are calling, the powers that be, powers that were, the Cabal, the Illuminati, all of these top level people that are pretty much pulling the strings to make the decisions.
Yes.
Here's what the commander said, and I'm going to paraphrase him. He said, the future Joint Earth Council, its own tribunal court on your planet, on Earth, will be able to handle these cases. Since the Joint Earth Council has yet come into being, we are currently bringing the people that we have within our control to the Andromedan Council's universal court system aboard the biosphere. When Earth becomes fully integrated into the fourth dimension, and should it choose to become a member of the Galactic Federation, then the people of Earth will see the full impact of the Andromeda Council's universal court capabilities and its trials for the reptilian and gray human counterparts, i.e. the human Cabal, Illuminati, the heads of the family, the military leaders. And apparently those trials are going to be made public, and the sentencing will be made public as well. So I get the sense that the formation of this Joint Earth Council is not too far down the road.
When you say Joint Earth Council, can you elaborate a bit more on what you mean by that?
Sure. Sometime in the near future, the Andromeda Council has shared with me that there will be a new, for lack of a better word, political or representative body called the Joint Earth Council. And it will be representative of a number of regions around the globe. Australia and the South Pacific, probably bundled with New Zealand, probably a regional council from Africa, and a few other places that will, again, truly represent the interests of the people of Earth in a fair, non-biased council, a council to pretty much establish what the new parameters and protocols will be for life on Earth as it becomes a fourth dimensional planet, as it becomes a trading partner with other planets of the Galactic Federation, as Earth, as a new member of the Galactic Federation, if in fact it wants to join, what its abilities will be, as it then becomes a default member of the Andromeda Council. And there's so much detail here that I have yet to get into because we're talking about an event kind of like a year and a half to 2 years down the road.
So this is not going to happen until we are fully aware
Right,
of the
right,
fact that we are now in the fourth dimension, and we are fully aware of the fact that we are, part of a community, galactic community.
right,
So,
right. The planet's been cleaned.
right.
All the underground, undersea reptilian bases have been removed. Uh, the danger from these beings has been removed. We've become fourth dimensional people. Whatever shifts and changes that happen to the planet have settled down, and we're now post January 2014. It's that time in the future that we're starting to establish new systems, new protocols across the planet that are for the benefit of all of the people of the planet, and of course, region by region, so there's equal representation. But yes, we're talking about a time in the future.
Okay,
Yep.
because
Yep.
when you talk about these sort of global councils, much like the UN, people can be very suspicious, and it sounds like, you know, yet another attempt at New World Order. And but if you're talking about this happening down the track a bit, once
Well,
we have a greater awareness.
yeah, and let me, if I may, let me share some additional information that I have, which may provide some calm about any concern people might have about, yet another council that's going to manage us. From everything they've told me, what will happen will be the following. Because I know that there's already an Earth Council affiliated with the Andromeda Council up there in the biosphere. They are responsible for the process and talking with the commanders that handle all the ships and the taking out of the bases. But they're also responsible for what happens after the changes have happened. Earth's interests as represented up in the biosphere with the Andromeda Council. Likewise, a mirroring body made up of, and here's the key piece, made up of the leading futurist thinkers on this planet. Not people that are part of the old system, which is dying and which will go away, but leading futurists who are intelligent, balanced people who look at life differently, who consider the reality of spiritual life, of life becoming fourth dimensional, of how we're truly going to be different people. These people will represent their own region in trying to bring forward real balanced protocols and approaches that are in the best interest of the Earth people in that region. And this body, this new joint Earth Council, will not be part of the old system.
Mm-hmm.
So it will truly be, the best way I can say it is a new body to best represent the interests of the people of Earth as they start to become a part of a greater galactic society of planets. But wholly formed by Earth people, with Earth people's interests in the mind that are not part of the old system. I don't know if that helps, but
Yeah, no, it does.
I think it's important.
Yeah.
Yep.
One thing that you alluded to earlier was our genetic makeup early on in our talk. Now, I don't know if you're aware of Alex Collier's information. Are you aware of Alex?
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I talked to Alex a couple weeks ago.
Oh, great.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Now, I remember hearing Alex talk about 22 different sources of genetics make up humanity, make up the human being here on Earth.
Sure.
Have your Andromeda contacts had any reason to talk to you about our ancestry in that way and give specifics?
I haven't really queried them about exactly who are we and exactly where we come from. I do know that the human race on this planet, as I touched on earlier, if you look at simply as a comparison, the physical look and appearance of maybe somebody who would be considered Western European. And those people are scattered all across the world. They'd be considered Caucasian, as compared to somebody who is his home turf, if you will, is from Africa. Or somebody from Africa as compared to somebody who's from Asia. Or somebody who's from Asia that's compared to somebody from the US or Canada that might be considered indigenous or Native American. Each of these people come from a different place out in the cosmos. Their genetic strains are different. And that's, for me, that's been enough. To know globally, or rather universally, that we're all the same and that we're human, but we come from different places across the universe. Mm-hmm. And we've all been placed on this one planet with all sorts of other diversity, biodiversity, including a huge diversity of plants, a huge diversity of animals and insects. We're like the looking glass zoo for certainly the rest of the galaxy. We have more. Everything I've learned tells me that we have more diversity on this one planet than any other planets around. And that's one of the reasons why the people that visit here are interested in us, because of all of the diversity. So, other than that answer, I don't have any more knowledge for you about specifically who and where. I do know that as a context, the people from Retol, Tolec, and 2 other planets, when this planet's cleaned up, when they start to visit here, you'll see people that are women that are 6'4", men that are 7'4", 7'8", of different colors, light green, light blue, but they're still human. They have dark hair, and they have blonde hair, and they have white hair, and they have red hair, and they have black hair, but 2 eyes, 2 eyes, 2 legs. They have families. They have, families and friends, and they have jobs, and they look a little different. Interestingly enough, the people with the green skin, they have pointed ears, like we would know from science fiction of Vulcans. Yeah, yep. And so of course, I'm like, all right, I'll bite. Do they also have the angled eyebrows? I'm like, no, just the pointed ears. Okay, fine. We're going to get to see human beings that kind of look like us, but certainly don't, because they're going to have green skin and light blue skin. But
I'll have to practice my my Vulcan hand sign.
Yeah, really.
Live long and prosper.
Yeah, and there's actually one of these 4 races. They have. You'd swear they're from Ireland. They have this like bright red hair, bright red hair.
Ah.
So it's if you take your family for a walk out to the park and you see these 7'5" beings walking around, you'll know who they are. So yeah, that's human. The human form, or what other people call humanoid, is the predominant life form in the cosmos. And so it's, I guess the tail end of this answer is, we are just one aspect of this cosmic sacred life form that the creator and creation created long ago. And it's like, see the universe, scatter yourselves, and we've been scattered all over the place, and we're out in the tail end. If you take a look at the galaxy, there's Earth on this little spiral kind of sitting out at the end. We're like at the end of the trade route. But we're here. We're not going anywhere.
I've got one last question for you before
Sure.
we wrap this one up, and we're getting back together again, because we have a whole list of other questions on a slightly different subject about bringing it closer to home in terms of what's happening right here. But
Okay, all right. Well, that's good. I look forward to it. Great.
This one last question, which is, in terms of what's in the public arena, what we're still getting told by the media, I would call it the march of the New World Order, still appears to be moving ahead as planned. We've just had, the atrocious invasion of Libya. Iran appears to be next. when and what, if you're aware of anything, are we likely to see that we can say is a definitive sign that they're on their way out, that they're losing their grip? I mean, we've been saying that they're losing their grip for months, if not years. We've been the talk amongst, whether it's the Occupy movement or truth seekers of different factions, is talking about the fact that it's coming down, it's crumbling. But when you look at the monetary system, the economic system, on the one hand, it looks like it's coming down because we're winning. On the other hand, it's claimed that it's coming down by design. It's meant to, so that they can bring in, a one world currency. So it gets harder and harder to discern what's falling apart because it's falling apart and what's falling apart by design. Do you know where I'm saying with all this?
I sort of do.
Yeah?
I think it's unfortunately it's not a simple answer, but I'll try to address it, at least based on what I've learned. I'll address the technology piece. Everything that they've told me says that whatever they try to pull, the they being the government, the military powers would be, the private aspect of the military powers, of the powers that be, and all intertwined pieces thereof. Whatever they try to pull technology-wise, the affiliated planets of the Andromedan Council, including and led by the people from Procyon, it ain't going to happen. They will get in, our people will get in, interfere, cause to malfunction, shut down, choose whatever word you want to. From a technology perspective, they're not going to let it happen, which specifically also means they're not going to let a nuclear war happen. Certainly not a large-scale nuclear war. They're not going to let those kinds of weapons be launched. That's what they've told me. In terms of the New World Order, or the powers that be / were going on their way out, I can only answer the question within the context of our solar system, the close of many cycles, us moving further into this region of space called the Galactic Equatorial Zone, and the final, if you will, immersion in fourth dimensional space. If the people, the bad guys that are in control, that have been pulling the strings for years, are continued to allow to do what they do, the more that we as a planet get immersed in fourth dimensional energy, the more we become telepathic. The more telepathic we are, we're going to see right through their lies.
Right.
So they can't, it's like make believe that they've been hiding behind these huge sequoia trees that are like the size of 2 or 3 cars wide. And they've been hiding behind these trees for years. There's no more hiding. They can't hide because energetically, everybody will start to become telepathic. And there will be, of course, other gifts, natural gifts and abilities as we become less third-dimensional human and more fourth-dimensional human. And if there are no ways for them to hide, then they're going to have to start figuring out where to go. Because they can't hide anymore. You can no longer hide a layer of a lie on top of a lie on top of a lie on top of a lie. So I think that what we have is a marriage of, it is simply this time in our solar system and in our planet's evolution that the negative powers and the reptilian controllers, which have controlled these powers, their time is coming due. Postage due, end of lifespan of this negatively influenced manipulation and control. Its time is simply ending. So as we move into this fourth dimensional space toward 2014, that agenda will become more and more and more evident. And people will rise up more and more out of the Occupy movement. And it'll become a more global, even more pervasive movement that won't even have an Occupy title to it anymore. It'll be, this is our planet, this is our world, we are Earth humans, we have the right to be sovereign and free, and we're sick and tired of being owned by the banks and mortgages and loans, and the system doesn't work anymore. Go away, your time is done. It can't help but happen. That's the direction we're going in. You can't reverse the process of a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. You can't take it from its cocoon stage and go back to be a caterpillar.
No.
We are going into the cocoon stage as in a metaphor, and we're going to become butterflies. And there's nothing that this new old world order powers that be can do about it. The time is up. So it's going to manifest itself because of fourth dimensional energy and simply because of the end of all of the cycles. Does that help in terms of a context of an answer?
Yes, it does. It does. And I just think that it has been just hard to discern, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
What's by design and what's true progress.
I would think that, and I would recommend that anybody who's interested in the future of each person's family, each person's state or country, that they take the time to look at what's going on around the world, whatever news stories, either mainstream or alternative, such as the web, that are beneficial to people in providing real, accurate information, that they pay attention to this information, sort of kind of absorb it, ingest it, and just sift it, take the time to see what's real, what's true, and, without sounding new agey, what kind of future do we want to form for us that is one of love, of consideration for fellow human beings, that doesn't bring to bear undue pressure on us? We have an amazing, beautiful planet, and this is on my firm belief. But we weren't meant to live like this. It should not be this hard. And as we get into fourth dimensional life, it's not going to be at all. But along the way, people just ought to pay close attention, take it inside, and you could use the word meditate, but just pay attention to it and find out which ideas and recommendations resonate within each person and come from a place of love. It's that simple. That's the end of my speech. Sorry.
And it's a lovely speech to end it on. Thank you.
Okay, my pleasure. Till next time.
Till next time.
All right, take care.
Thank you, Tolec.
All right, bye-bye.